Welcome everybody, this is your post-show for WWE Extreme Rules. I'm your host, Bryan, the Hype Ballard, and we're going to go ahead and get into some results and thoughts. So if you guys would just follow me down the rabbit hole, we can get right in. Alright guys, welcome to the show, and I just want to get right into all the action tonight. We got a lot of answers. So, it was a show of a lot of different things. We got a lot of action, but I feel like it felt like a very Monday Night Raw or just an average day in the week of WWE. However, the last two matches of the show is where, as good old JR used to say back in the day, where business picked up. And I feel like that was the theme in the last part of the show. And so let's go ahead and talk, and let's get in with the first matchup, which was our 6-person tag between, it was called a good old-fashioned Donnybrook match with Imperium facing the Brawling Brutes. And this did pretty much what you thought most opening show matches would do. It got the crowd hot, it got it going, and I want to say we got right into the first match, and in this one we go right in. It was Sheamus, Ridge Holland, and Butch. And then Samantha Irvin does the introductions. The Brutes hit the ring, but we get a teaser in the show for the White Rabbit. The White Rabbit mystery that has been going on in the WWE land that has captivated our whole audience for months now, it feels like. And I will say, we got our answer tonight. But anyway, the White Rabbit teases, and we see the rabbit jumping into an X for the Extreme Rules. And the same scene we saw in the video that first aired during SmackDown season premiere. Only a few seconds of the video plays before we cut back to Sheamus, Holland, and Butch wrapping their entrance. And out next comes Imperium, WWE Intercontinental Champion Gunther, and Ludwig Kaiser, and Giovanni Vinci. And then there are like these oak barrels, a mini bar, and more props set up around the ring. So you definitely get the feel like this was kind of a 6-man tag, all hands on deck, all combos go kind of thing. So the bell rings and the two teams have words. They start brawling, and Butch takes Vinci to the top of the announcer's table. Sheamus and Gunther brawl to the ringside. If you guys remember at our last pay-per-view at Clash in the Castle, these two had a heck of a match. You know, and so that's definitely what prompted them to keep going with this feud and add their, colleagues into it. So Vinci basically then sends Holland to the ring post. Vinci sets up with a spinebuster to Holland, and then Kaiser follows up with a kick. Imperium poses to some boos, and they just pose in the ring, right? And then Gunther directs traffic. Kaiser breaks the photo of Sheamus's grandparents at ringside. Sheamus is triple teamed next to the ringside bar. They send Sheamus into the steel steps, and now the fans really are booing. And so Butch leaps off the steps, but Vinci sends him into the barrier. Gunther chops Butch through the barrier and breaks it right away. Extreme Rules, and we're starting out crazy. Sheamus continues to take the triple team at ringside. He's just taking a pounding over there. Holland and Butch come back into play, but Imperium really just dominates in the ring now. Sheamus is down at ringside still, while Imperium triple teams Holland and Butch. They pose to more boos at this point, so they're really getting a lot of the heel heat. The Philadelphia crowd was pretty hot for this one starting out, so they go back and forth a little bit, and then Kaiser and Vinci with Imperium deliver a bomb to Holland on the floor from the apron. Holland is out now. Butch is all alone in the ring. He fights. They triple team him. Sheamus is still down, just taking a rest, right? Gunther turns Butch upside down in the corner and holds him there with a boot. And you really gotta feel like Sheamus and his crew, the Brawling Brutes, were just not gonna get it done tonight. Butch basically hits the floor, and Imperium poses again in the ring, and as it's just more of this big, bad heel build-up, right? Then, finally, fans pop as Sheamus is finally back up, and he gets in the ring, and there's a major stare down with him and Gunther. Gunther is ready to fight, and Sheamus enters the ring, and the crowd finally goes just crazy wild. They start brawling in the middle of the ring. Gunther with a big German suplex, and Sheamus with a clothesline. In a corner clothesline, Sheamus runs into a big boot. Sheamus then with a power slam for a big pop. Sheamus goes for the 10 beats of the Broadhand, and Gunther resists. Sheamus delivers more than 10 anyway, just keeps going and going and going and going. And Butch then basically keeps delivering more and more and more. And then Sheamus hits him with a white noise. Sheamus nails the bro kick, but Kaiser flies off the top rope and splashes to break the pin up. Vinci unloads on Holland now, and the Imperium Bomb is blocked, but Butch knocks Kaiser out in midair. Gunther drop kicks Butch, but Sheamus catches him in the Irish Curse backbreaker. Sheamus then with a cloverleaf submission. We get a little bit of every move in this match from Sheamus once it got hot and up and going. We see how at this point Gunther then covers Holland, but Butch breaks the pin. We see how the shillelagh broke on Sheamus's body, and fans chant, "This is awesome. This is awesome," right? You guys know the chant. So basically then Butch and Holland brawl, and Vinci and Kaiser with their 2 leaders are down. All 6 are down on the mat now. Sheamus and Gunther come up and strike their feet. They are nose to nose. They trade big strikes with the middle of the ring, and the fans go along with each blow, just back and forth, back and forth. So it's definitely a nice opening matchup between these two. You guys get an idea of the action that's kind of going on here. So at this point, they keep going, and that's where the barrels come into play. And we get a lot more barrels, and then we actually get some moonsaults, and then at that point, Gunther levels Sheamus again with the shillelagh, and then he still can't get the pin, and now he's frustrated, and they go for Gunther's finger now. More chaos breaks out. Sheamus launches Gunther through the announcer's table with a Celtic cross, and the crowd explodes. Sheamus was really hot with this crowd. So at this point then, Sheamus returns to the ring, hypes up the crowd some more, and just plays into it like, the seasoned veteran that he is. He nails a bro kick to Vinci, while Holland and Butch are holding him up. So they're kind of holding him up in the ring, and Sheamus, boom, bro kick. Sheamus then covers Vinci for the pin, and the win. 1, 2, 3. The Brawling Brutes go, and they take the victory here in the opening match of Extreme Rules. After the match, the Brutes stand tall and celebrate as the music hits. We go into the replays. Gunther is still laid out on the announcer's table while we're recovering. And at that point, basically we just get like a nice opening 6-man brawl fest, basically. So I would say the match is not bad. It was it got the crowd going, it served its purpose, and it gave us a little taste. It was definitely not anything near the Sheamus Gunther Classic at Clash at the Castle, but I didn't expect this to be. I expected this to advance the feud and keep things just moving along. So let's get into the next match. But before that happens, we actually go to the back, and we see these scenes throughout the night with The Miz just talking backstage, and he gets interviewed, and Dexter Lumis is just lurking about. And we keep seeing the mascot for the Philadelphia Phillies showing up in these Miz scenes throughout the night. And you think it's The Miz, and you think it's Dexter Lumis, and it's just leaning towards that, right? But The Miz keeps talking about his birthday party celebration on Raw. So, with that being said, we get a package for the next match on the card, which is one of our featured fighters, Ronda Rousey, going for her title and trying to get it back from Liv Morgan. So, this is a SmackDown Women's Championship match. Liv Morgan, and the rules are Extreme Rules. There are no rules. So again, it's just another Extreme Rules match. We go back to the ring for tonight's Extreme Rules match, and basically to go over the rules, and then out comes Ronda Rousey. She's wearing a pink gi to honor her the late judo Gene LaBelle, her trainer who recently passed away, so she's honoring him in that case. Cole says Belle's memorial service is tomorrow, so out next then comes SmackDown champion Liv Morgan. We get a formal introduction from the announcer. The bell rings and Liv rolls for her baseball bat, leaning in the corner, but Rousey slams her into the mat, and Rousey decks Liv and rolls her into a submission. Liv breaks free of the kick out and then grabs the bat. Rousey stands back up and isn't afraid of the bat. Rousey catches the bat swing and slams Morgan. Rousey has the bat now. She stalks Morgan with it for a second, but then throws the bat to the floor, and Liv tries for a move, but Rousey meets her in the air with a knee, and Rousey looks for an ankle lock, but Liv sends her to the apron. So, it's interesting, right? Because I found myself confused in this match because I wanted to cheer for both ladies, right? It wasn't a clear definition. I mean, I know going into this feud for a while, Rousey was kind of viewed as the villain, but also, you know, I feel like she's kind of taken that face turn. And I feel like, you know, with Liv, they've been playing like the helpless, she's lucky to be champion, but everybody likes her and they really want to be behind her vibe. And some people are mixed on that. Some of you guys are really mixed on the Liv Morgan championship reign. I think they were playing the hot hand, and I don't think it was a bad thing the WWE was doing. And so we'll call her Lucky Liv, right? But I do like Liv as champion. And it's a shame that it had to end so, you know, kind of quickly within just a few months. But she had a good run. And, you know, I'm spoiling it here, you know, so because we do know at the end of this match that it is Ronda Rousey that gets their title back. So basically what happens is they get, you know, further in the match, and then Rousey seems basically just kind of back and forth with all kinds of just chaos in the ring. Rousey ties Liv to the ring post at one point with a belt. She holds Liv there and unloads on her leg on bat shots, and then Liv drives Rousey to the edge of the apron. They both go down at ringside, and Liv pulls a table from under the ring, and she keeps and basically slides in. Liv stomps away on Rousey to keep her down in the corner. Liv leans the table up in the corner. Rousey charges, and Rousey drops Liv with a knee, a step-up knee to the face, basically. Rousey chokes Liv in the middle rope and then taunting her and asking her to tap out. So they tumble to the floor. Rousey approaches Liv and jabs her with a steel chair. They bring it back in the ring after a little bit, and Rousey fights off Liv off of her shoulders. They tangle some more. So again, lots of chaos, lots of weapons, lots of tables, lots of just a little bit of everything in the ring, right? So I would like to think it was just kind of an everything hardcore weapons match, right? But with karate moves. So that's kind of how I just seen this thing going. Liv powers up and power bombs Rousey onto the table. Rousey kicks out at 1 and 2. Rousey tries to reposition the armbar again, but Liv resists some more. Rousey transitions into a bicep crusher and sits back on Liv's head. Liv looks to be smiling as she fades into submission. Rousey gets the win via referee stoppage. That's interesting, right? So the winner and the new SmackDown Women's Champion for now is Ronda Rousey. And I want you guys to think about that for a minute. That's why I paused. I want you to think about that. How does a referee stoppage cause a women's championship to change hands? The booking was a little weird on this one. It sounds like there was a lot of action, but I really didn't feel the story they were telling in this match like I've seen them do in the past, right? Especially when Liv first won the title and then Ronda also had a rematch. Here's another thing. How many rematches for this title is Ronda Rousey going to get? I get that, WWE just has the crush on these celebrities, right? And these UFC fighters that come over, but I don't know. It just seemed a little weird to just hand Ronda the title, so I'm hoping there's more to this story by some loophole that Liv gets the title back, because I think there's a little bit of a controversy in this one. So after the match, Roundy stands tall and their music hits and she raises the title in the air and talks some trash to Liv, right? We go into the replays, and then Rousey basically talks some more trash all the way to the back while Liv is just seen smiling. So it's interesting, right? Because Liv is smiling the whole time like she knows something. I think it's that she knows you have to lose the title via the championship advantage, and I don't know how that plays into Extreme Rules and referee stoppage. I don't think there was a tap out or anything. So, all right, so that was another match. It was kind of a little quicker one tonight, but then we got into the match that I was almost the most excited for, which was the leather strap match between two of my wrestlers that I really enjoy their work and program, and I was excited to see like what they were going to do in the ring in this kind of brutal style, and that is none other than Drew McIntyre and Killer Karrion Kross. So we go back to the ring, and Samantha Irvin, the announcer, then goes over the strap match, noting that a 13-foot leather strap will connect the two superstars. Out first comes Drew McIntyre to a huge pop in the crowd. He's carrying his sword Angela, his family heirloom, and he stops to pose as the pyro goes off, the whole bit. And then at that point, Drew McIntyre, gets in the ring. And then and he yells out of the corner, and there's more pyro. Out next comes Karrion Kross with Scarlett Bordeaux. And as the screen goes black and white, I love their entrance. I love their theme. I love exactly what Kross brings to the wrestling world. I enjoy his work. I enjoy his look. I'm glad to see him back in the WWE. I was a little disappointed when they handled him last time and they just kind of dumped him out in the street. And I was, right on his, on his side 100%, right? And I was like, man, I really want this guy to stick it to the company. But I am so glad that he's back in there because I want him to get a fair shake. So these two, I'm expecting great things because you guys know I'm pretty high on Drew as well. So they get in the ring. Drew looks on his Kross and Scarlett pose. And then Kross looks over at Drew and just smirks. We got referee Jessica Carr, hooks the strap up, but the Kross is not interested in tying himself to it. The fans boo, and Kross plays mind games with the McIntyre. The referee then hands Kross his end of the strap. He slowly puts it on and throws it away instead. Scarlett pulls the strap from the floor, which pulls Drew towards the ropes. Kross takes advantage. So he takes advantage of beating him down. And meanwhile, there's a lot of action going on. And Kross counters and he sends Drew over the ring post and then back to the barrier. And they're just back and forth and all over the place, right? And then it's interesting because you don't realize that the match hasn't started for a good amount of time until that strap is really on. And then once it did, then we get the bell and you're like, oh yeah, I guess that does start the match. And all that was just the pregame, right? So at this point, after the steel steps and all of that, they go to the steel steps, they go through the barrier, they're just kind of all over the place. And then the bell finally rings once they're back in the ring and they get the straps on. And Drew starts pounding on Kross with fists. Drew whips Kross with the strap now. And Scarlett winces from ringside. Kross rolls out, but Drew follows him with the strap. And then Kross takes advantage with another distraction by Scarlett. It's weird, right? Because seeing this kind of match in the WWE, it's weird because I think earlier this year, and I don't want to get into an AEW versus WWE debate, but I feel like CM Punk and MJF at the earlier part of the year had their strap match, right, at New Year's resolution. So you guys know what I mean. It's a late night. So basically, we get, that match, and it was very bloody, and it was just kind of crazy. Now we're getting kind of the PG version of that, and I just think it was a little odd, and I don't mean to say that you need blood to tell a good story. I just mean to say that, maybe not do a match that's so similar. And I kind of learned that tonight as I was kind of excited for this match, right? And I think it was because that other match was fresh in my head. But regardless, let's get back to this one. So Kross fights back with some more chops, and then Kross ducks and swings the rope for Kross, and he hits the cross jacket submission. Kross drops Drew with a big strap shot to the chest, and then Scarlett is smiling. And then as they just kind of go back and forth a little bit more in the ring, Kross unloads on Drew with some more strap shots, and they're just smacking each other with this leather strap back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, right? And it did make you cringe a little bit. At this point, they're just getting pissed off at each other. And then Drew is pissed. He drops Kross once. Then, again, with another clothesline, the fans start rallying. Drew hits a big belly-to-belly and then throw across the ring, and then neck breaker in the middle of the ring. Drew kips up for a huge pop, and it still amazes me how such a big man can do a kip up like that, but I love it. Drew smiles now. Kross blocks the future shock DDT. Drew comes back with a spine buster for a 1 and a 2. But it's not over. They get up and they trade big strikes in the middle of the ring even more so. Scarlett cheers her man on as they trade punches. They whip each other with the leather again, right? Just back and forth. Drew keeps whipping. Drew keeps the future shock DDT in the middle of the ring. Drew calls for the Claymore kick, but you know what? Does it ever work out? Does the Claymore ever work out? Only in big situations, but not tonight because Scarlett gets in the way. Drew goes around her, and then she whips him back around, and she pulls out pepper spray, sprays them all in the face, and Drew is blinded, and he goes down, and Kross gets up from the corner, and he decks Drew with the crosshammer forearm for the pin and the win. And your winner in the leather strap match, Killer, Karrion Kross. Guys, after the match, Kross and Scarlett begin to celebrate, And then we go to the replays again, and the referee immediately tends to Drew's face, and they try to clean up the pepper spray, kind of keep it going. Again, I feel like this was part one of a definite multiple part series. Hopefully this will continue on, maybe into Survivor Series. Maybe we can get like a team duo thing going on. I would love to see maybe an old school Survivor Series style match where we just get like multiple feuds going on and competing against each other. So I'm thinking that can lead us over to the Royal Rumble, maybe even. So at this point, let's get into our next thing. But before we get into the next thing, I do want to say to you guys, thank you so much for liking, sharing, subscribing. And if you're not a subscriber, please consider it. But, you don't have to. I do want to say, definitely I enjoy interacting on Twitter. You guys definitely keep me engaged in the community. And I love my Twitterverse, right? And I love all you guys out there. Just kind of, keeps wrestling alive for me, right? I mean, we love to talk about stuff. So, jump on Twitter and, I'll definitely follow you guys back. All right, getting into our next one, we have the Raw Women's Championship match. So I will say I liked the placement of the matches tonight. I enjoyed the fact that we had, the women's match, and then we broke it up with the Killer Cross match, and then now we're getting back into the other women's match. So we're expecting this to be the ladder match, right, for the Raw Women's Championship. And we got Bianca Belair and Bayley. So basically, Bianca Belair and Bayley, they both come out by themselves. They do show Nikita Lyons in the crowd. She stands and waves, and then, we get a little bit of love for the NXT style universe. But ultimately, when these ladies get in the ring, this feud's been building up for a little bit, and basically they get in the ring. Bayley goes to use the ladder, but we have kind of a tug of war for the ladder, and Belair shoves Bayley to the floor. And then Belair climbs for the title, but Bayley pulls her off and tosses her to the floor. Belair pulls Bayley out by the leg, and then Belair faces into the ladder again. Bayley talks some more trash at ringside, asking for who really sucks, and Belair lands on a leaning ladder, but she catches herself and climbs it into the ring and then up the ladder for the title. Bayley rushes in to stop her. The fans chant EST, EST. The fans are really behind Bianca Belair, and I just want to say this. I'm a Bayley fan, but I have now slowly became a Bianca Belair fan. And you guys have heard me say before, I felt her first title reign was too soon. But I feel like this one is definitely spot on. One of my Twitter followers tonight made a really, really good point. He said, Bianca is very legit, right? However, she never feels like her matches are actually in any threat of ever losing the title. And I have to agree with that. It's a super good point. I can't remember exactly who it was that said it, but, please comment in the comments below and I'll definitely, give you some credit there. But it was a very good take. And so I want you guys, to kind of think of that when you watch these Bayley matches, these Bianca Belair matches in the future, right? And what can we do? Give me some ideas. What can we do to get Bianca Belair to be believable, to be beaten, right? Because it does feel like, she's kind of, I made the comment, she's kind of becoming the next female John Cena, if you will. And there was a lot of spots in tonight's matches that I felt, really exemplified that point. So for the one, later in the match, actually, let's go into this. Bayley's crew comes out, right? So you got Dakota Kai and Io Shirai coming out and to assist her. And as, this match is just going back and forth and kind of all over, there's a spot with a kiss of death where it was very awkward in the corner, and you could tell that they were trying to do the John Cena WrestleMania spot with two people on his back as he, gives them the FU. And so I feel like they were trying to do that with the kiss of death for Bianca, but it just didn't work, and it was almost like she was waiting on the second person to get on top of her, and it looked very awkward, right? The announcers did a good job trying to sell it tonight. But then they hit the kiss of death again later in the match, right? And they were doing a lot of kiss of death spots. And then, fast forward to the end, and really the build-up for this match with a typical ladder match. We get basically Bayley and her going at it, and then all of a sudden, she's carrying a ladder on her shoulder, Bianca Belair, and she nails the KOD, the kiss of death again, slamming Bayley on top of the steel. And then it basically looks like Bayley smacked her mouth on the ladder all the way down. So Belair then climbs the ladder, retrieves the women's title, and that's the end of the match, right? So, I mean, there was a lot that happened in there, but I just am a little fearful that Bianca is running the risk of becoming Super Cena, female version 1.0, right? So they got to be careful of giving her such a similar move to this, the Kiss of Death, and letting her, I know they're trying to show her strength and stuff like that, but I feel like they're building on it too much, and I feel like there's just so much more we can give to her. All right, so that's everything that kind of happens here. And then at this point, we get the replays and the whole deal. And then we're going to, so far I'm looking at this show and I'm saying, all right, you know what? It's an average show. And I think I made the comment, it feels like a typical Monday Night Raw or SmackDown. And then I tell you what, I must have done something the way I said that, because business was about to pick up, and it picked up fast and hard, and I should have known, because our next matchup was an I Quit match with Edge facing Finn Balor of Judgment Day. And this has been the ultimate feud, because as you guys know, Edge is the one that created Judgment Day, and then he recruited Damian Priest, and he recruited Rhea Ripley, and then all of a sudden they kicked him out and they replaced him with Finn Balor, right? And you can tell they're starting to lead into a feud with AJ Styles. And now that I'm thinking about it, that could end up being kind of a Survivor Series matchup of Judgment Day versus maybe, like a Mysterio, Edge, AJ Styles, and maybe you throw in Edge's wife, Beth Phoenix, as well. So that could be something that we could see down at Survivor Series. But ultimately, this I Quit match, to me, was the match of the night. The story these guys told in this match and all the work that they put in, from when they come right out with the crowd, they come out to huge pops, right? Finn Balor had this amazing looking mask, and it was very all spikes on his face, and they had like a nice slow rendition of his normal music, but more Judgment Day-ish. And then, so basically, he had that black mask on with his new theme song. I loved it. If you guys haven't heard it, definitely check it out. The mask is covered in spikes, like I said. And then there was basically no signs of the Judgment Day members. And I think this was so smart to keep everybody out and let these two guys just tell their story for a little bit. And you notice I said a little bit. So they meet in the middle of the ring. They're smiling and laughing at each other. The bell rings. And then Edge rams Balor back into the corner, unloading with strikes. And then basically, Edge goes for an immediate swinging net breaker. Edge unloads on Balor while he's down on the mat, and Balor goes to the corner, but Edge stays on him. At this point, the referee gets closer, and with his microphone, because you got to get the words, I quit. And we had this kind of throughout the match. And I don't know about you guys. I Quit matches have their purpose in the world, and I think it was done well here. I can only think of a couple I Quit matches with a microphone that were iconic. One of them was referenced tonight with The Rock and Mankind at the Royal Rumble. And then this one tonight I think was, pretty good as well. So basically they're going back and forth, and Balor's just really working on Edge's knee, like hardcore. And then so we get a lot of that. Edge then basically knocks Balor away with some headbutts. And then at this point we get into a spot with a figure four leg lock, and Balor basically tackles Edge and he applies the figure four. Edge is screaming in pain, and I love this spot because it was very old school, right? We had the figure four leg lock, we had the screaming, and then we had the classic Edge reversing it and rolling over, and Balor saying no, no, no as the heel, and then he was tapping and screaming. He didn't tap out or quit, but then he reversed it back, right? So it had a very, Flair old school vibe to it. Basically, then Edge punches and breaks free of that lock, and then they basically kind of end up on the floor, and then Balor traps Edge in the apron, and he unloads on him like crazy, right? And at this point, they go a little bit further, and they're slamming each other, and Balor's slamming Edge into the announcer table, asking him to quit, and he keeps slamming him, asking him to quit. And then at this point, once they're done with the announcer table, they go a little bit further, and they go a little bit more into the crowd and into the audience, right? And it was one point, I don't think they realized, like the fans or the security there, realized that how far they were going to go, and they practically walked all the way up through the fans and then into the tunnel. I thought there was going to be two fans that were going to jump right in the middle of their match, but they were really polite about it, and they stayed back, and then you could tell security kind of got in there helping. Basically at this point, they're on the floor just brawling, and they are in a hockey arena of the Phillies, right? So Edge goes back and he grabs a hockey stick, and he comes out and hits Balor with it, and then he puts him in a crossface, and he has the hockey stick right in his mouth, and you could just, you're kind of like thinking, well, if the hockey stick's in his mouth, he can't give up and say, I quit. But it's still extremely effective and extremely painful, right? So at this point, the fans are just popping, right? And then when that crossface submission finally breaks, they just go back through the concourse area, and they just keep going all the way through the crowd and kind of just all over the place, which is kind of nice, because I feel like, some of these matches you do have to go all over the arena if it's Extreme Rules, because otherwise why are you trapped in the ring, right? Unless it's a cage match. So Balor goes under the ring at this point back at ringside, and he brings out a steel chair. Edge comes out, over, but Balor drives the chair into his ribs, and then Balor brings the chair and keeps Edge down onto the chair. So, throughout the match, I don't quit, and they keep saying I don't quit, and I'm really thinking who's going to get who to quit here and how. What's the story they're going to tell and how to make this happen? So, interference is coming, right? We all know that. So, Edge hits an old school educator, and Balor acts like he might quit, but he hesitates. At this point, Damian Priest finally rushes to the ring, and Edge sends him right out. Edge dumps Balor over the top rope on the apron, but Dominic is there. Edge charges with a spear to knock Priest. So you have now Dominic, Priest, and Balor kind of versus Edge, and all four superstars are just in the ring going at it. Fans rally for Edge as he's hanging in there and really overcoming. But now he waits in the corner with a spear. And then Rhea Ripley finally appears on the apron. And now we've got, all of Judgment Day versus just Edge. And they're just dominating like a wolf pack, right? So Dominic is, what basically happens is Rhea Ripley ends up handcuffing Edge to the ropes. Okay, as she grabs the key. So now he's trapped on the ropes. And he's looking at Rhea Ripley. And you got Dominic, Priest, and Balor all behind him, just circling him like a wolf pack, right? So then they just beat him down and beat him down further and further. And then there's Kendo's sticks involved, with Ballard just beating on Edge some more, trying to get him to quit. At this point, very brutal match. And then all of a sudden, we get Rey Mysterio's music hits, and we get a big pop from the crowd. He meets Priest at ringside and drops him very easily with a chair. And then Rey hits the ring, and he flies at Balor with a crossbody. And then Rey hits the 619 on the ropes to Priest. Dominic comes out of nowhere and drops Rey off the apron. And basically the fans are booing like crazy as he just, hit his father and laid him out again. Dominic holds Rey by his arms and stomps away on him at the floor. Balor goes back to Edge, who is still cuffed to the rope. And then at this point, you're just thinking, okay, well, what's going on? They're both getting beat down. WWE Hall of Famer Beth Phoenix rushes out, and Edge's wife in real life, and she unloads on Balor with kendo stick shots. Priest comes in, but Beth also takes a few shots at him as well. Ripley comes in now, and she faces off with Beth. They meet in the middle of the ring with no weapons. Beth tells Ripley to bring it. Ripley smiles, and the crowd gets riled up for Beth versus Ripley. So Beth Phoenix versus Rhea Ripley is kind of happening in the middle of this match. Beth levels Ripley with a spear. Ripley is pulled to safety by Dominic. And Beth does get the handcuff key at this point and frees her husband from the grasp of the rope. Edge is now free as the crowd pops, and he immediately drops Priest with a spear. Dominic pleads with Edge, and Edge backs him into the ropes, telling Edge to do it. And then Dominic wants to shake hands and wants to become friends, right? And Edge says, no, absolutely no way. And he basically shakes his hand, kicks him square in the nuts. And then Edge turns around to Balor, and he gets hit with a sling blade. Balor is fired up, and he waits in the corner. Edge then nails a spear out of nowhere, and Edge delivers a second spear. And you can tell Edge might just be rallying back, but again, how is this going to end? How are you going to make somebody say, I quit? There's got to be a method. And the storytelling on this match was phenomenal. Balor goes to the top for the coup de grace, and then to Edge, and then again, Balor goes back to the top for a third coup de grace, while Priest and Dominic hold him down. The fans boo. Judgment Day. Beth is laid out in the ring at this point. Balor, basically Rhea Ripley come out of nowhere and punched Beth Phoenix in the face with some brass knuckles, laying her out. So basically, they beat on Edge some more. All the members of Judgment Day are holding Edge, and Edge tells them all to go to hell. The crowd explodes. The three men keep Edge held down as he's laying there looking at his wife. And at this point, Balor is taunting him. Rhea Ripley brings in a chair into the ring, and then gets another chair, and she threatens to do a concerto to Beth Phoenix. At this point, Edge kind of comes into consciousness and sees his wife in immediate danger. And Edge quickly says multiple times and that he quits. He quits. And basically the bell is rang, right? So after the bell, Edge is still being held by Balor and Priest and Dominic. Rhea Ripley says something to him and smiles, and then smacks Beth with the chair and does the concerto and delivers it. Edge is so shocked. Judgment Day then at this point exits the ring, and Edge can't believe, what exactly has happened as he attends to his wife, who has just hit this, vicious blow to the head. Ray and the referees all rush in to try to help Beth Phoenix out. Cole calls for a doctor, and Edge and the referees are all calling for help. Guys, this was my match of the night. Great storytelling makes matches, and there's nobody on this roster that understands that more than Edge, the rated R superstar. And Finn Balor is no slouch himself with the worldwide experience he has. This definitely had all the right elements. It had one-on-one. It had all over the arena. They had a 4-on-1 dynamic. They evened the odds with some help from Mysterio and Phoenix. You had multiple stories going on, and I think this definitely is a great build into Survivor Series and a team matchup. So, be on the lookout for that. But this definitely was a good one-on-one contest. Highly enjoyed it. So after that match, I was asking people, I said, what is going to be the main event of the show? I mean, if that wasn't the main event, I don't know what's coming up next. And coming up next was our Fight Pit match. And again, one of my Twitter followers made a really good point, and he said, well, it's easier because they have to take the ring ropes off for the fight pit to fit around the ring, which makes 100% sense because this cage had a little bit of a different vibe to it, right? It wasn't a cage match. It wasn't a Hell in a Cell. So it was a fight pit and had its own thing. The cage fits very slim around where the ropes would be on the ring, and there's a second level to the cage with a walkway, like a catwalk area up above, with another level of cage on top of that. So I kind of like that aspect. Oh, by the way, this is Matt Riddle versus Seth Rollins in this pit fight match. We go back to the ring, and UFC Hall of Famer Daniel Cormier makes his in-ring debut as a special guest referee. I did tweet at Ken Shamrock tonight, who was watching the event live, and I told Ken, I said, he did like my comment. I said, you need to be the referee for this match, Ken Shamrock, because, you have experience at WrestleMania 13 with Brett and Stone Cold. And he did like that comment, and, I would like to see Ken Shamrock in that role. But we get Daniel Cormier, that's fine. And then Matt Riddle's out first, and he enters the ring as fans just cheer him on. Everybody just loves Matt Riddle. I'm okay on him. I'm not huge on Matt, but I respect him. He doesn't draw me in. We see the WWE NXT champion Braun Breaker sitting ringside as well in a suit. And then he basically shows off the title belt and fans cheer him on. So we get a little NXT black and gold vibe going. So the fight pit structure, again, is hanging high above the ring. The music plays, they bring it down. It's a 20-foot structure with over 6.5 tons of steel, according to Michael Cole. The only way to win this is by submission and TKO. And basically, these guys have to win in the ring, and that's going to come into play later. So basically, they get in the ring and they start this match off, and Cormier tries to get Riddle. They just basically starts punching on Rollins because this was supposed to be just a grudge match, right? So they can't get the match started because Matt Riddle was all over Rollins. So eventually they do get it going, and then basically they go. And Riddle takes Rollins down into a triangle, and Rollins breaks it with a thumb to the eye. So you got Rollins playing the dirty heel, and you got, Matt Riddle playing the face and the hero. Rollins stays on Riddle with a knee to keep him down. Cormier slams Rollins against the steel, telling him to not touch him because, he's here to fight Riddle, not the referee. Rollins takes back control and rakes Riddle's face against the steel wall. So they use the cage a little bit. They go kind of back and forth. They kept involving Cormier. It's interesting because Daniel Cormier didn't add much to this match for me. I feel like they did enough with him, but he felt like another referee to me. They didn't do any kind of enforcer kind of rule. He didn't really get involved other than, call the match. So they could have just put anybody in there, but, it was a gimmick. Rollins then basically, they launched into the steel wall with a big overhead suplex, forcing Riddle to land on his neck really hard. And then Rollins climbs up from the cage, and he hits a big frog splash from the top of the pit. And he kind of does a little bit of a throwback to RVD in the very first, the very first Elimination Chamber. It reminded me of Rob Van Dam. You could tell he was going for that. Rollins stomps away some more and then stands down. And the crowd just is singing Rollins' theme song throughout the whole match, right? And Rollins is just playing into it, trash talking. Riddle fights off and holds off. And then he levels Rollins with a big RKO out of nowhere for a pop. They talk about his mentor, Randy Orton. And Randy's just around the corner coming back, right, at some point. So then he hits another RKO on Rollins again, as these two are just in a grudge match. I was enjoying the match, I will say. Despite this following a very good match with Edge, I think it did pretty well. So Riddle's back up at the count of 9, barely, making it for a count. Rollins ends up climbing to the top of the pit into that catwalk area up above, and I really like that. I hope this isn't the last time we use the pit fight match. So basically he's taunting him from the catwalk, and then eventually Riddle gets annoyed and finally climbs up because Rollins isn't coming down. So Cormier continues just to get on them to both come down, and as he states, the pin or the submission has to occur in the match. So the announcers also say that escape in this cage doesn't do anything for a win, and I like that they kind of told that story there. So meanwhile, though, they're not coming down. They just want to fight. They're up top fighting, and they're in the catwalk area. Seth Rollins, hits a pedigree, so kind of pulls out his mentor Triple H's move, and then Rollins then threatens to come down and choke Cormier out if he doesn't shut up, basically. Cormier is trying to explain the rules to Rollins. Rollins stalks Riddle some more and then goes for a stomp up top, right? And so at this point, they're just kind of up the top, back and forth, running around. And then at this point, Rollins and him go at it. And then all of a sudden, Riddle basically, the fans are starting a holy shit chant after, they both come down from the catwalk, right? And they, not in willing fashion. So basically at this point, he does a Riddle, Rollins falls on the catwalk. Riddle throws and basically does a leap off the catwalk with a huge Roton and Rollins to the mat. And they talk about how you can break his ribs from that pressure. So Cormier counts while Riddle and Rollins are slow to recover. They get up and Riddle brings Rollins down with a triangle. Rollins turns into a powerbomb, and Rollins is trying to get out of this triangle hold, but you know what? Riddle's a UFC fighter. He's not letting that thing go. And he rams him into the cage, and he rams him into the cage again, and then he powerbombs him, but nothing's happening. Rollins screams out, and Riddle yells at him to tap. Rollins taps, while Cormier is down in the mix with them to make the call. So basically, again, the end, and Riddle gets a huge first ever main event pay-per-view win against Seth freaking Rollins. So good match. And at the end, we get what you guys would say is the shock of the night. We get the White Rabbit. We get our White Rabbit theme. And are we getting our answer tonight? So as Riddle, everything gets really quiet. They're saying goodnight. The logo for Extreme Rules starts playing in the lower right-hand corner. We're all thinking, great. Nothing tonight. More mysteries. And then all of a sudden, the arena goes really dark. The crowd lights up with fireflies as the song, He's Got the Whole World in His Hands, plays in a very demonic-like fashion. And you guys know what that means. The White Rabbit is indeed tonight debuting, and he is none other than Bray Wyatt and the Eater of Worlds. And that whole question of who killed the world? You did. Comes up. The camera pans around the crowd and shines different spotlights with life-size real versions of Huskus the Pig, and then the spotlight disappears. Next is a shining spotlight on Mercy the Buzzard, and then it disappears again. Another part of the crowd, they get a life-size Abby the Witch. And then It goes all around with the music playing again, and we get Rambling Rabbit in another part, life-size version, and then it goes out. The camera then cuts to ringside, and we see the head of some sort of thing on the announcer table, and it looked like the Fiend's mask, right? And then the camera then cuts to ringside, and we see again the Fiend then standing at the barrier. The fans pop until the spotlight is over and the Fiend disappears. And then the song slows down to a very dramatic aspect like that, right? And it's very, crazy. And then it shows basically what looks like used to be the Firefly Funhouse set, except for it's dead. There's no life in the Firefly Funhouse, and there's cobwebs everywhere as all the puppets are just laid flat on their faces and kind of just all over the place. A bizarre face is shown on scrambled on the TV and speaking in a distorted voice and starts laughing. The mysterious face then says, then the lights go black. A light shines on a doorway at the stage as the fans are popping. And is this the forbidden door? Was what went through my head. And the door is kicked open. And that is the door basically leading from the Firefly Funhouse world into the real world. And I feel like that door is kicked open. And then ultimately, Bray Wyatt, you see a lantern. You see his lantern coming out. And as he's walking out with the lantern, the crowd just erupts, right? And here it is in the month of Halloween. And we get one of those most iconic characters back in the WWE. And I felt like I want to applaud the WWE for the storytelling. One, not just getting Bray Wyatt to come back out after going away for so long. I feel like it was almost 1 to 2 years. And, at this point, we've got him back. And he's wearing some kind of character, some kind of mask. And when he comes out, the chants are chanting, holy shit. And then Wyatt removes the mask, and it's really him. It's Bray Wyatt. Old school, Eater of Worlds, Bray Wyatt in the flesh. And then we get the crowd going wild, and you could tell, I believe he says, I'm here. And then he blows out the lantern. Wyatt then, at this point, the lights go out, and Wyatt's new logo appears on the screen, and Extreme Rules goes off the air. The new logo is a firefly, I believe. It's like a moth or a firefly, but upside down. And it, I think it signifies, there's a lot of symbolism in the Bray Wyatt lore, right? And I feel like this is just that next chapter of his universe, and I'm glad he's back in WWE. I'm glad they made it at this pay-per-view. They made it special, and it almost has to be in October. And the WWE has done a really good job of giving us something special, and they definitely teased it and built up to it, and then there was the payoff. So I'm going to be tuning in to Raw and SmackDown just to see what happens next. And I don't know if they'll put him on Raw. I think it would almost be smart to just keep him off TV for a week. He's back, and let people speculate for a week, and then he shows up. So either way, you got to breadcrumb this thing and just let them follow the trail. So let's get into final thoughts on the show, you guys. So I do want to talk, and I want to talk about Extreme Rules. Extreme Rules was a good show on the second half of the show. Now, I will say I was kind of not feeling it the first half of the show, guys. I was not feeling a lot of the first matches of the card. But as soon as Finn Balor and Edge turned up the heat, they got it going for the night. And then it followed up with a pretty fun pit fight match. And it was something new and fresh that we didn't see. And then we got the White Rabbit. We followed it deeper down the trail. And we got the whole world in our hands. And we're going to get more coming up on WWE programming in next month. Guys, I want to say I enjoyed Extreme Rules the second half. If you don't want to see the whole show, start with the Finn Balor Edge match and lift up from there. All right, guys, I want to say thank you for joining me on this post show. And again, this has been Tap Out Talk, and I'm your host, Bryan, the Hype Ballard. Let's talk on Twitter or in the comments below. Take care, guys. Like, share, subscribe, and you're always part of this group. And it's not goodbye around here, but it's game over.
Can't stay